Now is Virginia Congressman Ben Cline. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. Tell us how you voted and where this goes now.
Well, I've been a supporter of Jim Jordan's for many years and looking forward to getting him across the finish line, whether today or Thursday, Friday, whatever it takes to get him there.
And you think he'll be able to sway those people who have not given their support yet in these coming days? Well,
the race is in flux right now, so there are going to be some people who promised to support him on the first ballot who may come off. There are some people who voted protest vote against him on the first ballot who will come on. So the numbers will shift. We may win some, we may lose some today in the second vote, but I hope we stay put because the American people want us to stay and get a speaker because we've got a lot on our plate for the American people.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second person in line for the presidency, the Speaker of the House. We've got the president in Israel this morning. I want to get your take on that. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Biden is planning on asking Congress for $100 billion in supplemental funding for Israel and Ukraine. He's also tying this money to the border funding and disaster funding as well, Congressman. How will that play out?
Not very well. When you try and stack all of these very important issues on top of each other, it tends to sink under its own weight. So the idea of pairing aid to Ukraine on top of aid to Israel, we all want to support Israel. We all want to stand with our lone democratic ally in the Middle East. But at the same time, we need accountability in Ukraine. We've spent over $100 billion in Ukraine, and we have very little evidence to follow the money to show where it's going. We need more accountability for the American people on Ukraine before we spend another dollar there.
Yeah, I mean, that's why 117 Republicans voted against sending more money to Ukraine. But what about the Israel money? Would you agree to that funding if it were alone and not tied to the Ukraine money?
Potentially. You know, there are billions of dollars waiting for Israel in the defense appropriations bill that has passed the House.
Right.
The Senate hasn't passed that bill. The Senate hasn't passed any bills. So they can pick it up and send it to Biden, and Israel will have its money very soon. But for additional money to flow, we have to have a whole nother conversation about moving forward.
Well, how are the American people supposed to trust that their taxpayer dollars are actually being used wisely? I mean, you saw the story that we're covering this morning. The watchdog group OpenTheBooks.com has found that the Biden administration has sent more than $1 billion of U.S. taxpayer money to the Palestinians. The Trump administration completely froze the aid to the Palestinians back in 2018, saying that the money, which was going through a United Nations relief group, was being used to support groups like Hamas. State Department is responding to this report. They claim that the funds are not benefiting terrorists. But, Congressman, what do you make of this Open the Books report? The administration is proposing another $260 million for the Palestinians in its 2024 budget request. So are we inadvertently funding the terrorists?
It is shocking, and we need to actually follow that story and make sure that no dollars are going to terrorists. But it's par for the course with this administration. When you consider NGOs operating with money for Ukraine are redirecting that money, NGOs on the border are actually taking money spent and helping illegals cross our southern border. So this money, the Biden administration does a terrible job of following the dollars, making sure they're spent where they're supposed to be spent. So this report, while shocking, doesn't surprise me with this Biden administration's history.
How worried are you about an expanded war now that we also are keeping an eye on Hezbollah sending rockets from the north and Iran potentially getting involved further?
It is a worry because once Iran gets involved, Israel will react more strongly because Iran is a much larger nation. Hezbollah is 5 to 10 times larger than Hamas. So this would broaden out the war on a larger scale and cost more lives. And we don't want this to start to steamroll into a larger regional conflict.
Well, we may not want it, but it appears that that's what the threat is right now. Are you expecting troops to get involved? I mean, U.S. troops, because we know that there has been a prepare for deployment order from Secretary Austin to 2,000 troops.
The appetite for American troops on the ground is next to zero for the American people. They don't want American boots on the ground in Ukraine. They don't want American boots on the ground in Israel. And quite frankly, Israel doesn't want or need or is asking for American boots on the ground at this point. We have the battle carriers out in the Mediterranean. We have stations around so that we are going to be ready to assist Israel if necessary. But right now, boots on the ground is not on the table.
Joe Contra.
Congressman, we saw tweets yesterday from representatives such as Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar blaming Israel for that missile strike on a hospital. We saw the New York Times, Politico, Associated Press, Washington Post also definitively blaming Israel for that airstrike. We're now seeing evidence that says otherwise, that missile came from Islamic Jihad. How do you stop this sort of misinformation that's out there that's only fueling this war where we see now embassies, U.S. embassies now with massive protests because they believe what appears to be a lie at this point?
It is a terrible jump to conclusions. You know, it's Halloween, so when you say the misinformation is coming from inside the House, we're serious. It's coming from members of the House, inside the House of Representatives, and that is unacceptable. We need to be more deliberative when the information first comes across the wire. You have to make sure what the facts are, and too many times the members of the squad, the members of the left, will try and craft facts to their own purposes, even if they're not truly facts, if it's just turns out to be something other than what they want it to be.
Wow, what a shame. Congressman, thank you. We will be watching all of that. We appreciate your time this morning.
And congratulations on your 30th.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Ben Cline joining us this morning. We'll be right back.